I'm going to ask you a really simple question. Do you want this? It's a Razer Naga Pro, wireless, modular, 3 attachments, so you can change the amount of buttons you've got on your right-hand thumb, which might sound a bit strange actually now I've said it out loud, but depending on what type of game you're playing, if you're watching this, probably World of Warcraft, then you can change how many binds that you've got available on your mouse. I'm going to talk you through how I would use it. We're going to have a full unboxing and full review on it over on SJ Gaming Live, which is my second channel, which is going to be specifically for hardware, streaming tips, content creation, all of that sort of thing. So if you're trying to get into YouTube videos or streaming or anything like that, and you want any advice on what I've learned over the last year or so, then you might find some of it useful. But we'll also be doing lots of reviews on hardware, which just doesn't necessarily make gaming better, but can also make editing better. Videos, you know, different cameras, like all sorts, microphones, maybe even what I'm using right now, the setup I'm using right now. So links in the description to below to SJ Gaming Live. I'm going to be streaming on there once a week as well. So make sure you come check me out over there. But let's have a look at this mouse. And now, I think what a lot of this comes down to is actually what class you play. Because if you play a really complex class where you're using 7, 8 different abilities quite regularly or something like that, you're going to need more accessible keybinds than if you was a hunter or a warlock. No offense, hunters and warlocks, but you just probably use less buttons than others. So that will sort of dictate which side panel you want to use. But ultimately, hardware is as important as skill. So when people say, oh, this is not a WoW guide, this is about a mouse or whatever, it's not, because you can be the most amazing player in the world. You can improve your gameplay with hardware, you know, with more keybinds, with easily accessible keybinds so you can react quicker, things like that. And that's what I've done with the Elgato Stream Deck video as well. Showed how it was useful in game. It was mixed reviews. Some people liked it, some people didn't, you know, but it is ultimately something that I use. So it's not like I'm trying to get you to buy something or use something that I wouldn't use myself. You'll never ever see a video of me recommending a product that I do not use myself. It's as simple as that. But will the Razer Naga Pro make you a better player? Let's find out. So just to be clear, I use the Razer Tartarus, which this is going to be given away as well, not in this video, and I use the Razer Naga Trinity. Also, this one's being given away over on Twitch at the moment. Now, these are the combinations that I use, so I've got lots and lots of key bindings, lots of options for the side of the mouse, depending on even on what class I'm playing, and I want to get into that a little bit. Now, this isn't going to be a full unboxing, looking at it all in great detail. We're just going to stick to WoW and how this can specifically make your life easier or better in PvE and PvP. Now, by the way, if you stick around until the end of the video, one of you are going to be given this completely free, but everybody else, I'm going to be giving you my code at the end of the video where you can actually get 30% off. So there's 6 items that you can get 30% off. It's like the Tartarus, the Naga Pro, even the chair that I'm sat on, so the Razer Iskar, which is it's about a £500 chair, really nice chair. You can get 30% off of it, which is humongous. And obviously, as we're getting in towards a TBC launch, you're probably going to spend a lot of time sat in your chair. The review for this should be on this week on SJ Gaming Live on the chair, so make sure you keep an eye open for that. But let's get hands-on with this mouse and have a look at what it's like. So we've got 3 side plates. So we've got one which has got 12 buttons on. We've got one which has got 2 buttons on. And then we've got one that's got 6 buttons on, all next to each other. So my preference, like I said at the start for World of Warcraft, would be to use the 6. And the reason for that is, if you are like me and you're using the Razer Tartarus with it, you've got a lot of keybinds already. So what I find these useful for is modifiers. So you could have the bottom row, perhaps, as Control, Alt, Shift, and then maybe 3 macros, or maybe your mounts on here, stuff that, you know, you just want quick access to. But having these as modifiers then means even if you're using a keyboard, you can hold this button. And now, let's say you was using 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your keyboard. Now, when you hold this, you've got Shift 1, 2, 3, 4, Control 1, 2, 3, 4, Alt 1, 2, 3, 4. So it unlocks a lot more bindings just outside of your ordinary bindings you would be using on your keyboard or on your Tartarus. Now, on the underside of the mouse, you've got a toggle for 2 different modes. So you can toggle it to either BT for Bluetooth or to 2.4 for your wireless dongle that comes with the Naga Pro. Or you can obviously set it to off, and if it's set to off, then you would be probably having it plugged in and using it as a wired mouse, which is also fine. So the wire just plugs in at the top there, so it's not going to get in the way. You're not going to notice any difference between using it as a wired mouse, even though it's a wireless mouse, but using it wired versus using a traditional wired mouse anyway. So this would be your 12. Now that I feel like that's too many. Personally, you know, it could work, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure there's lots of people who do use it, because what you could actually do with this in like specifically again in MMOs or World of Warcraft, you don't even need to use buttons on your keyboard really, or you could just use your keyboard for cooldowns, because you could quite literally just use your thumb for certain abilities, you know. So let's say you're playing a warlock, you could bind all of these to Shadow Bolt and then just roll your thumb all over it while you're raiding. Not suggesting that that's the best way to go, but you know, even if you just wanted these as buttons that you wouldn't ordinarily have keybound, you know, just because you've got them there as an option, that could also be a good thing. And it's quite easy to tell when you get used to using this, it's quite easy to tell what one your thumbs are over, due to the first ones actually being angled up and then the last ones being angled up as well. So it reminds me of like a half pipe in skateboarding. So once you plug it in, you'll automatically be prompted to download the Razer Synapse. So this is the Synapse, and you can see these are the devices that I've currently got plugged in and registered to my account. So we've got the Razer Tartarus V2, which is what I use, like I said at the beginning of the video, the Razer Naga Trinity, which is my wired mouse that I use, which is very similar to the Naga Pro, just a slightly different side panel, and obviously it's not wireless. And then the Razer Naga Pro, which is the one we're interested in, because this is the one we're looking at. So if we click on the Razer Naga Pro, now it will show, so profile firstly, so we can obviously add different profiles like I said at the beginning, and then when you press the button on the underside of the mouse, it will then switch between these profiles. But if I really quickly just jump into game to demonstrate how this would actually work in the game, I've not got this configured to how I would personally have it set up, but if we was to look at, let's say, this mob for example, now I can just use, I've got one hand off the keyboard, one on the mouse, and we can literally just use the buttons on the side to be able to kill. And never actually, you know, you could literally do your entire rotation just on the mouse. Now you've got either your Razer Tartarus or you've got your keyboard completely free for anything you want. It's not, I don't consider it the most comfortable way to play, but it's certainly possible. Let's have a look at the 6, and I'll show you how I personally have this set up for me on World of Warcraft. So now we're in the Razer Tartarus software again. It gives you a tick to let you know exactly which side plate you have on. But we know we've got the 6 on anyway, so we're using the 6. So this is how I would have it. Along the top, you've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6 underneath. So I feel more comfortable. I feel like my thumb naturally sits on the bottom row more than it does the top. I feel like the top is where I would move my thumb to hit something reactively maybe. So 4, 5, and 6, I would literally click on the 4, and then we're going to change it to a keyboard function, and we're going to rebind this one to control. So that is now control. We save that, it's done. We'll then click on the 5, and then we're going to have the 5 again as a keyboard function, and we're going to keybind this one to shift, and then save. And then we'll do the same with 6. So we're going to have the 6 as a keyboard function, and we're going to have this one as Alt. So now we've got those ones. What you can also do is on the top view, you've got these two buttons here, sensitivity stage up and sensitivity stage down. So what these do is change the sensitivity of your mouse up and down. But I don't feel like I need that on my mouse. So what I actually do is I rebind those to something useful as well. So for now, what we'll just go with is we'll rebind this one to a keyboard function, and we'll rebind it to K, and we'll rebind this keyboard function to J. Doesn't really matter what they are. So now we've got these two buttons, extra keybinds. I personally just use these for my mounts, you know, if again talking specifically World of Warcraft, but you could use them for whatever you want. And then for these, I'm just going to leave these as they are, because all I'm bothered about is the modifiers. You can bind the top 3 to whatever you feel, you know, necessary. But now if we jump back in game, so I'm now going to be using the Tartarus again, but what this now means is these 3 buttons here are now my Control, Alt, and Shift. So for me, if you look at my macro here, Alt, so this is my Power Shift macro for cat. So Alt and 2, so I know the one furthest away from me is Alt. So if I hold that one down and press 2, it will now obviously transform me into cat form. If I then pull this mob, for example, and we give it a good old C into, I can then really quickly Power Shift in and out of cat form for more energy. But the same way goes, now I know if we look along my bar here, shift 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are my heals. And if I was a boomy, for example, you know, my DPS abilities are just 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I press 1, 2, 3, and 4 on my Tartarus, it will use my first 4 slots here. But if I hold shift, it will then use the ones above it. So I just feel like the 3 buttons at the bottom are more than enough. I don't feel like we need any more than that actually at our disposal. I think 12 is probably a bit overkill for WoW. But me personally, I'm much more of a fan of the 6 button orientation, just because I feel like I've got enough. You know, between this and the Tartarus, I've got enough. But I did say at the start of the video that you would be able to get these extremely cheap, and I mean extremely cheap, 30% off. So box.co.uk have been nice enough to provide me with a Scottejaye 30 code that you use at checkout. On selected items, it's the 6 Razer products that I'll put in the description, but you can get 30% off. One of them's the chair, you've got the Naga, basically anything that you would want for World of Warcraft. And I also said that I was going to give one away free. And to be in for a chance to get it for free, leave a comment down below telling me which of the 3 side plates you would use if you win this mouse. That's it. You've not got to be subscribed, you've not got to like, any of that. You've just got to leave that comment. But as I say, if you're interested in getting any Razer products, definitely head over to box.co.uk and use my Scottejaye 30 at checkout. I mean, 30% is massive. So until the next one, I hope you found this useful. There's lots more that you can do with it, a lot more in depth. If you want to see the full version of this, where it's the unboxing, it's absolutely everything, as I say, make sure you check it out on SJ Gaming Live. This is a very short version of the video just to suit the World of Warcraft audience. But until the next one, peace out.